All right, guys. So let's go ahead and get the party started then, shall we? So be advised that we are recording today, so that will guys, so let's go ahead and get the party started then, shall we? So be advised that we are recording today, so that will be posted later for the folks who couldn't make it. So welcome again. My name is Bernie DeSantis. This is Audience Alchemy, which is my virtual event to teach other people how to do virtual events. I believe that we are all connected on LinkedIn already, but if we're not, Joey's going to go ahead and drop my link in the chat. So please do connect with me. And with that, I'd also like to introduce Joey. He is our producer and going to be helping out with the logistics today. So Joey, if you'll wave and say hi.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Very good. Thank you. And if you guys run into any technical issues with Zoom today, obviously reach out to Joey in the chat and he'll try to problem solve those with you on the side. So today we are here to talk a little bit about how you make your next virtual event, quote unquote, blow up. So for that, you frankly need a plan and perhaps even a partner, right? Whether you are leading webinars, workshops, roundtables, masterclasses, challenge events, whatever you want to call that virtual event. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what it takes to execute a successful virtual event. And honestly, guys, it's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery, and it's no combination of the two we'll refer to as rocket surgery. It's actually quite simple, right? It's just not necessarily easy, especially for one person to do completely on their own. And that's not to say it's impossible. There's a lot of people out there who do virtual events and do it completely on their own, and frankly, do a bang-up job. So I won't be sharing any slides today. It's going to be an open conversation. So if you are not already in gallery view, rather, you can do so by clicking view in the top right corner of your Zoom screen and selecting gallery mode. And if you're able, I would certainly appreciate you guys coming on camera so that we can see each other a little bit. So let's start by kind of setting the stage. Again, first, welcome. Again, thank you for joining. In the next 30 to 40 minutes, we're going to talk about some of the real challenges of running events solo. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the real results that we've seen from supporting some of our clients. And then we'll close with a call to action, as often happens in these type of events. So if you are ready to level up your own events, we can have a conversation. To start off, who here can tell me what the number one fear is for people? It should be pretty self-evident if you don't know. Anybody want to come off mute, Susie?
Talking in front of people.
That's right. Absolutely. Public speaking is the number one fear for all of humanity, right? Nobody wants to step on that stage and be the focus of attention and potentially feel embarrassed in front of a crowd, right? Now, let's assume that you all have conquered that fear, right? You're willing and able to get on stage or on camera in this case. Can anybody tell me what the top 4 challenges are that most people face when doing virtual events? Any ideas?
Getting bums in the chair.
Getting butts in the chair, James. That is the number one challenge, getting the right people to show up. What else?
Not having them check their email.
Well, communication, right, Bob? It's communication, effective communication. And Melissa, I saw you coming off of mute. What do you think?
No, I was going to say something similar. I was going to say stopping people from multitasking, when it's a virtual event.
Absolutely. And those two kind of dovetail together, right? It's communication and what you're communicating and when, but then on event, right? Being engaging with the people that are there in a way that makes sense for the audience and for the format of the event that you're running. There's still 2 more, and they may not be quite as obvious. Anybody have any other thoughts? Susie?
Handling all that has to be done and hosting the event and still managing all the behind the scenes things.
Yeah, absolutely. The logistics are very, very important, right? I would kind of categorize that under the engagement piece, and we'll talk a little bit about that here shortly. But the last 2 that I was looking for were follow-up strategy, right? Post-event, you have to have some type of a strategy to follow up with people. But lastly, if you do the follow-up right, actually selling when you get somebody on the call with you, right? Actually having that conversation and pushing for a sale. So knowing that those are the top 4, if you intend to leverage virtual events, you have to think about and have a plan for those things. And those 4 things are high level, right? Each one of those entails a ton of other little things, the details, right? The devil is in the details, as they say. So I'm going to have Joey drop a chat prompt in. What I'd like to know is, what in your mind is the point of doing a virtual event? What are you hoping to get from doing a virtual event for your audience? So pop that into the chat, or feel free to come off of mute if it's easier for you to just verbalize it.
I mean, I'd say in the short term, my goal is always to add value and to educate people and to bring
Absolutely.
people together.
Mhm.
And then in long term, obviously, it's hopefully to build business, right? Convert
Right.
somebody over to being a client.
Absolutely. And right, Melissa, when we're talking about particularly the B2B space and even B2C at this point, this type of stuff doesn't lend well necessarily to transactional type sales, right? You want to build that relationship. You want to have a connection with people. And it sometimes takes a little bit of time to do that. So what else? What else is the point of doing virtual events? What do you guys want to try to get out of it? James says close to a group of people all at one time. Yep. Selling one to many. Definitely a value of this. Brenton says credibility and education. Yep, absolutely. Getting leads, right? Making sales, branding, thought leadership, content creation, positioning yourself as that expert, right? Gail says brand awareness. Yep. Creating your own stage and getting that exposure, right? Because it's not just the event as well. Replays that can be used in perpetuity are also exposure, right? So let's assume that all of you are here today because I did something right in the marketing of the event, right? Whether it was an invite, a DM, maybe you received an email. And let's jump to issue number 2 that I identified earlier, right? Communicating and creating an engaging event. And let's imagine for a moment that instead of how you guys came into the event today, those of you who came in a few minutes late, didn't get this, initial experience, but instead of coming into the event to some upbeat music, being welcomed by an energetic host, you were welcomed by silence, or worse, this. Joey, take it away, if you will. You're on mute.
Thank you, Bernie. Thanks for joining today, everybody. I've got a deck to pull up here. Just give me 1 second to get that up. Okay, I should be sharing my screen. Can you see it?
No, nothing yet.
No? Okay, hang on, I'm sorry. 1 second. I don't do this very often. How about now? You should be able to see it now.
Yeah, no, Joey, nothing.
No, is there someone who does this more than me that could maybe tell me what I'm doing wrong? I feel like I should have it here.
All right, Joey, that's enough. Right. So thank you, Joey, for the demonstration. Right. How did that feel, guys? I mean, honestly, do you feel like that is someone that you'd want to buy from, that you want to have continuing conversations from or with?
Feels uncomfortable.
It feels
uncomfortable and off-putting.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Joey's hamming it up a little bit, but let's be honest, we've been to events where it feels like that sometimes, right? It's almost like pulling teeth just to start the presentation. Things like blurry and grainy video, poor framing, right? You notice Joey's head was like at the bottom of his frame. Terrible lighting, fumbling with buttons, or the mute button, or the random features that they potentially want to use. Again, the audio sounds like they're talking through a fishbowl. Sometimes you have long stretches of silence, or they're mumbling to themselves, trying to figure things out, right? They're taking forever just to get the deck up. And then if they do, maybe they're sharing the wrong screen and now they have to start over, right? And you're sitting there as a participant, just waiting and watching the time tick by while that presenter gets their shit together, right? You often hear, just give me 1 minute while I do XYZ over and over, right? It sounds familiar. So either we have seen people do this, or in some cases, we have done some of these things ourselves as a presenter, and it's frustrating. It can be embarrassing, and unfortunately that's when attendees generally start to check out, right? They start to feel disengaged by that experience. And quickly, while we're on the subject, what else have you guys seen, real life experiences that made a virtual event, in your opinion, bad? right? What was some of the things that happened that made it suck for you as an attendee? Let's go ahead and come off of mute.
I'll say just like over promise, under deliver on content, right? Like it sounds like it's going to be great. You're going to learn all this great stuff and you don't, and you just get, maybe just get sold to a lot at the end and then you leave.
Yeah. And a lot of them are what and why, and oftentimes not how, right? And admittedly, I'm not going to go super in depth into details today on how you execute every little thing in a virtual event. But on the same token, you're going to walk away today with an understanding of some of the things you need to do to execute a virtual event, right? So meeting those expectations is super important. And if you don't, that is a poor experience. 100% agree, Melissa.
And on the flip side of the coin of Melissa's is the masterclass or workshop where it's content upon content upon content with no break, no interaction, just a brain dump where the speaker presumably is proving to everybody how smart they are and not at all building relationships with you.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And again, it's the engagement, right? We're at a point now, guys, with virtual events post-COVID, you can't just sit here and talk at people for an hour. You're going to lose them. Even if they stick around the entire time, to Melissa's point earlier, they are disengaged. They may be in the room, but they're in their email, they're in their DMs, they're on Slack, they're on Teams, they're doing all of the things except paying attention to what's actually happening, right? So Linda says nonstop lecturing. Yep. Jumping around, not following a logical progression of the information as well. Yeah, absolutely. And that leads into like preparation for the event, right? We're going to talk about that in a few minutes as well. So I want you guys to think about for a moment how much time it potentially takes and effort it takes that is wasted by the person doing the bad virtual event, right? If they don't do it well, how much time, energy, and effort is wasted trying to do that event? It's significant, okay? So when you're talking about your event, right, I'm going to jump into step 2 in the process again here of the challenges. Event format is super important when you're talking about the audience that you're trying to connect with and the ideal client profile for the event you're putting on. Right. And there's a lot of different formats. There's masterclasses, there's webinars, there's workshops. We hear about multi-day challenge events, roundtables, panels, fireside chats, right? But here's the secret. The format is very important because, as an example, if you are targeting CEOs and executives of, let's say, mid-sized companies, revenues in the $5 to $50 million range, you do a masterclass or a workshop, you will likely be speaking to an empty room. CEOs, high-level executives of organizations that assumably are doing fairly well, generally are not going to attend a free masterclass or a workshop, okay? Unless it is specifically designed for them and they can have the expectation that there is a significant value takeaway for the time that they invest. Now, that same audience, the CEO of the mid-sized company, they will, however, attend a roundtable if they believe that they will be able to contribute meaningfully and interact with other people that they feel aligned with, right? Or that they view as their peers. So you want to make sure that the audience that you're trying to target fits the format, or rather the format fits the audience that you're trying to target. Now, aside from roundtables, when you're talking about all of the other events, generally speaking, it's more about education, right? You are going to be sharing information with people that hopefully they can take and implement in some way, shape, or form. And when you are delivering education, it has to be engaging, right? You have to have the opportunity for your attendees to engage and interact not only with you, but potentially with other people in the room as well. And we're talking about engagement, it's not just a buzzword, right? Engagement is a business strategy. When we use tools like Zoom polls and the breakout rooms and chat prompts, we actually are creating a real connection with people, even with some of the wallflowers who can leave their cameras off and they never come off of mute, right? Just having them be active and participate in a passive kind of way drives that connection. And a well-executed event doesn't just deliver information, right? It's not just the lecture. It does bridge that know, like, and trust. And the engagement starts well before the first person even registers for your event. It starts in your posts, in your DMs, in your emails, in the networking conversations that you have leading up to the event. Now, the event experience itself does begin the moment that your first attendee is in the room. And as I indicated earlier, I always recommend starting every meeting that you have with upbeat or high energy music to set that tone and get people energized, get them moving a little bit in their seats. And in order to keep an audience engaged in a virtual event, you have to get them to do something at regular intervals, right? Roughly every 5 to 10 minutes. Again, leveraging the tech available in a Zoom or a Teams, like the polling questions and the chat prompts throughout the course of your presentation, is an easy way to keep people's attention and get them to re-engage not only with you, but with the platform that you're in. Using things like videos to reinforce any of the points that you're making and to create a pattern interrupt is a great strategy. Now, you don't want to litter your entire presentation with nothing but videos, but a strategically paced video somewhere in between that reinforces a point that you make, that's good. Periodically asking those overhead or even direct questions to attendees and getting that audience member to respond or even just to think and reflect is awesome, right? Again, creates engagement. And then, of course, getting people to apply the thing that you're teaching them, if it is an educational event, is huge. If they don't have the opportunity to apply the thing that they learn, how do they know what challenges they're going to run into after they left the event? Give them a chance to apply, to ask questions. And again, that increases engagement. As a number, in a 40-minute presentation, you should have approximately 4 to 8 engagement opportunities throughout. Okay, those could again be things like polling questions, breakout rooms, chat prompts, using reaction buttons, anything that again requires them to do something. But that on top of energetic and enthusiastic presentation and facilitation, being a little bit creative, looking outside of Zoom, the platform itself, to some of the add-ons that are out there as well, if you're savvy. Things like Kahoot for gamification, Poll Everywhere, or Mentimeter as an additional polling feature that allows for word clouds and different reporting structures. So those are all ways that you can increase and encourage engagement throughout the course of your event. So let's pause for a moment and talk about the real workload, right? What does it actually take to do a DIY event? And this is going back to the first challenge that we identified, right? Inviting and getting the right people to show up. Anyone have a guess at about how many hours you think it takes to set up, to market, and to run a virtual event? Again,
First time or on repeat?
Let's start with the first time, but then obviously we know we get better as we continue to go. But James, what are your thoughts? And I know that you've done a few events.
Yeah, first time, including email sequences, geez, 10 hours?
Okay, 10. Anyone
Using
else?
ChatGPT to shorten the...
Right, and absolutely, there are tools out there, right? You can leverage to help reduce some of the time and effort that it takes. Anyone else have any ideas? So Linda says about a month. Okay. So Joey and I did a little bit of an analysis. Gail says 2 to 3 weeks. And what we found was that, well, let me start by saying this. Running your own event isn't just about logging into Zoom and talking at the camera, right? If you're doing it right, honestly, it should take at least 10 hours to set up and market it. But what we've found that if you're doing proper outreach, you're inviting, you're working on your presentation, you're rehearsing, building your slide deck, managing your tech setup, creating messaging sequences, having a follow-up plan, dealing with a fair amount of stress somewhere in the between, it can take 40 hours over multiple weeks to do, right? And you should probably start marketing your event anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks in advance, right? So you can spread out that outreach. Most people, quite frankly, underestimate the amount of time that it takes to do a good virtual event. They think that if I build it, people will come, but it's not just the time and the expense. I mean, honestly, it is the margin for error as well. You only get one shot really to get it right. When I say that you only get that one shot, is that factual? No, you can run another event. You can reach out to the same people. You can do it all again. But really, you only want to take that one shot. You want to do it right each time that you do it. And it takes a strategy, it takes a plan, and it takes time and effort to do. So again, think about how much time, effort, and money is wasted if it's not done well. And you don't close any sales, you don't get any opportunities out of it, right? It's a stinger. So I want to talk briefly about a couple of clients that we've worked with, and I will leave their names out for the sake of anonymity. But one of my clients is, she runs a coaching program. And so over the course of 3 separate webinars that we've produced for her, with an investment of about $1,500 total for those 3 events, she ended up seeing an ROI of about $15,000, right? And that included 8 signups for her program. She had VIP upgrades. One of those signups actually ended up coming from a completely cold lead who ended up finding her content on LinkedIn, attended the event, booked a follow-up call, and then signed up with her. So her ROI on investing in a online event consulting producer was about 10x, right? 10x what she spent. And beyond revenue, she ended up booking 4 speaking opportunities from her virtual events, including one with an association here in Michigan that, quite frankly, could be a game changer for her. And that's what happens when you combine great content with a great plan and execution, right? Another one of my clients, he's in the marketing and PR world. So he was actually really good at sending out invites and getting people to show up for the event. He ended up only investing $500 with me, right? Just one event that we did. But he ended up seeing $4,000 return. He ended up signing 2 clients up immediately following the event for his services. So in that case, we saw about an 8x ROI. Now, is that standard? Should everybody expect that? Probably not, but also not everybody should be doing virtual events, right? Different strokes for different folks, as they say. But let's talk about for a moment some of the things that people do wrong, right? Some of the things they don't do right when setting up their event. And we talked about it a little bit earlier. They don't have a targeted ICP. They're just blanket inviting everyone and their brother to their event, hoping that some people will say, yeah, that interests me, and they show up, right? You want to be a little bit more targeted, and especially if you're doing something like a roundtable, right? You want to make sure that you really do have the right people for that event. They spend no time or very minimal time investing in marketing, in creating an audience, and in nurturing. And again, some of this stuff should be done even before you have your event scheduled. You should already be reaching out to who your target audience is just to connect with them so that when it is time to market your event, you already have that connection with them. Some other things, no pre-event communication or registration confirmation. There wasn't a whole lot of communication about my event, but you guys definitely got some DMs today, right? To make sure to remind you that the event was today. Here's the link, reduce friction so that you can join. Some people don't take enough time to invest in their presentation, right? Actually rehearsing, practicing with the technology, making sure that they've got it all dialed in. The event just is a dumpster fire. They look like Joey did when they start. Then again, no post-event follow-up or strategy. I mean, I'm hearing that you should have somewhere between 12 and 18 touch points in order to start that conversation and get to a sale. And a lot of folks don't even send one follow-up message after an event. And if you're going to take all the time to get people there, to present to them, you got to have a follow-up strategy. And then lastly, what is the sales pitch, right? What is the sales pitch? If you don't have any sales pitch, the conversation and the follow-up doesn't matter. James, go ahead.
I was just going to say the other group of people that a good follow-up will have impact on are the people that didn't show up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's not limited to just the people who showed up here today, right? I have, aside from Joey and I, 10 people in the room with me right now. I had 74 people register for the event, which means that above and beyond the 10 that are here, I have 4 more people that I can follow up and have a conversation with. Because every single person that registers is a hand raiser that says, I'm interested in the thing that you're talking about. Maybe they just couldn't attend today, right? So you got to have that follow-up strategy, what the communication is going to be. So let me pause for a second. What questions do you guys have? Is this resonating with you? Is it making sense? Yeah. Okay, good. Any questions? What questions do you have? Yeah, Joey, your acting skills are pretty good, man. Pretty good. All right. So let's talk for a moment about the pre-event strategy, the registrations, the reminders, the follow-ups, and really, the ROI, because the ROI is is what it comes down to, right? You have to make sure that you're getting something out of all this time and money and energy invested in doing it. Because building an audience, nurturing leads, following up, these things they do. They take hours over the course of days or weeks or even months in some cases leading up to the event. And if you already know what your content is going to be and you have your presentation pretty much defined, you're about a third of the way there, right? Again, it's the marketing and getting people to show up to your event that's really the hard part. So let's pause for a moment and do some quick kind of back of the napkin math for you. And if you want to pop it in the chat, don't feel required to, but what is your hourly rate? What would you charge somebody for an hour with you, right? As a coach or a consultant, right? Get that number kind of in your head. And if you're inclined, drop it in the chat. Okay, so James says $300 an hour. Okay, everybody kind of got that number in their head? Okay. So in our estimations, when Joey and I went through the numbers, what we came to was about 24 hours total of time spent just marketing the event. So that's posting, that's inviting, that's emails, that's DMs, that's networking. If you're willing to make phone calls, making some phone calls. And again, as James said, some of this can be reduced. The activity can be reduced through automations and through AI, right? But someone still has to set all of that stuff up. Then maybe 4 hours or so for presentation prep, rehearsal, 2 hours or so for setup of your tech and to test it. And then probably about 10 hours post-event, depending on the number of people that you get to show up to your event and how many people register, figure about 10 hours minimum of follow-up. So now take that number that you identified as your hourly rate and multiply that by 40, right? If your number is $100 per hour, at 40 hours, you've invested about $4,000 in time spent, right? In James' case, what's that? About $12,000 in time, right? So when you think about that, do you have the time to put into effectively marketing your event and effectively executing your strategy? Or does it make sense to have someone help you? Right? Now, the one piece that I'm not able to personally help with is get on the calls post-event with you and help you sell. That's just not something I'm able to specifically help you with. But the other three pieces, we can definitely help you, right? And I can say that I have clients who regularly see 50 to 100 registrations for their events. 10 to 20 people show up to those events. They schedule 5 to 10 follow-up conversations from those events. And then lastly, they close 1 or 2 sales, almost like clockwork every single time. So you've got to ask yourself this question. If someone was able to help you stand in a room with 10 to 20 of your ideal prospects each time you run an event, you get to meet them, you get to talk with them. All of them have raised their hand to say that I'm interested in the thing that you're talking about. How many do you think that you could close? Right? Ask yourself, how much is one sale worth to you? And then you have to do the ROI, right? Does it make sense to do a virtual event? Does it make sense to employ someone else to help you do it? And that's where Insignia comes in, right? Our online event consulting and production, we handle most of those logistics. So you get your time back and ultimately get to see better results as a result of doing a virtual event with professionals. So we did a poll on LinkedIn and we asked, why haven't people done a virtual event yet? And if you're already doing virtual events, I'll shift that question around a little bit for you, which is, if you are doing events, what has been your biggest challenge to overcome? So Joey, go ahead and launch that poll. But I'll say this, on LinkedIn, people identified stage fright as an engagement as one of their biggest challenges. And that was at about 20%. 40% said it was bandwidth and time. And then another 40% said other, right? They said it with a note that it's, as Susie identified earlier, all the hundreds, if not thousands, of little details and things to do that were a challenge. But what was interesting to me was that nobody in the LinkedIn poll said that they were intimidated by the tech, right? Most people view Zoom as something pretty easy to navigate and do. But then when you show up to a lot of events, you see how people struggle with it. And I think people often also overestimate their understanding and familiarity with the platform and ability to multitask and do things on their own, right? So let's see what people say in here, right? So we're going to type it into the chat. We got a couple that said other. Got one that says bandwidth, no time, one that says stage fright and engagement. We've got 4 out of 8 that have replied. All right. So about the same as what happened on LinkedIn, right? So what can you do to overcome those things? Again, leads you right back to me. I can help you with the stage fright and the engagement piece. We can help you with the bandwidth and no time piece. So if you're going to do virtual events, guys, you need to have that strategy, whether you work with me or not, so that you can execute it and get the results that you're looking for. You want to make sure that you're identifying that target audience. Make sure that you select the event format that works for the audience that you are looking to connect with. Make sure that you are actively inviting that audience. Make sure that you're delivering an engaging event that brings value for the people who show up. And lastly, have that plan for follow-up. Okay. So just to wrap up, land the plane, guys. From an online event consulting perspective, it's not just button pushing, as oftentimes it's assumed that we do. Although pushing the buttons on the event day is part of the production, a producer or online event consultant helps to direct your overall event strategy. Yes, we do manage the tech and the setup, but we also consult on the marketing strategies. We also help to map out your event for engagement. We also help to coach you as a speaker to have that better virtual presence and delivery. And then we help you to create the strategy and structure for the event so that we do most of the heavy lifting and you are only responsible to show up and shine. So call to action time, guys. I would love to schedule a free virtual event strategy call with you. Determine if it makes sense for you to be doing virtual events and even if we're a good fit to work together. But if not, you'll walk away with some ideas, some thoughts about how you can implement those things into your next virtual event. So if you are planning or thinking about that event, let's chat, schedule a consultation with me. I won't pitch you there. It's just a strategy call. We'll talk about what's possible, what you want to accomplish. Currently, my schedule is open into June because we're already scheduling events in July and August. So when you book the call, I will likely reach out to bump that meeting up a little bit. But Joey's going to drop the link into the chat, grab a spot, and let's design something that will work for you and give you the results that you're looking for. So I'll open it up to questions now. We'll stay on for a little bit and answer any questions. I do see, James, you produce presentations in some other format than PowerPoint that is more engaging. So I've seen some folks, James, that if they have a green screen, I've seen them project the entire presentation onto a green screen, and it looks really good when done well. Aside from PowerPoint, I've seen people use Gamma, I think it is, to create AI-generated presentations. But above and beyond a deck, a lot of the most engaging events that I've seen are done actually just the way that I'm kind of doing it, in more of a roundtable-esque type format. Everybody's on screen. It's a little bit more dialogue. But from a presentation standpoint, PowerPoint is typically the go-to for most people. All right, what other questions do we have, guys?
There's a question from Jason in the chat.
There we go. Let me take a look at the event I produced to give me feedback. Absolutely, Jason. I'd be more than happy to do that, my friend.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
You bet. All right. Well, then my final gift to you today, guys, is I'm going to give you 24 minutes back in your day. If you'd like to stay on, by all means, feel free. Love to have some further conversations. But if not, again, feel free to book a consultation. We'll have a chat a little bit further down the road and expect some follow-up. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day.